Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العظيم. So today we've gathered here today to talk about the importance of being responsible while using social media. Before we get to the discussion of what does it mean to be responsible and how to be responsible, I'd first like to discuss this idea of social media. Many times when we think of socializing, people add a negative connotation to that. They assume that socializing is something that's not good. But the reality of the matter is that it's only natural for human beings to socialize. It's natural, it's a part of us. We all know the story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, and Adam alayhi salam was in Jannah. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. And when he was in Jannah, Adam alayhi salam, he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, I have everything in Jannah. Imagine this, everything's there. Whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to drink, all the luxuries are there, the palaces, everything is there. He says, oh Allah, even though I have everything, there's one thing I don't have a companion, I'm feeling lonely. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him his companion Hawa, our mother. So what we learn from this is that Adam alayhi salam, even when he was in paradise, the one thing he felt lacking was there was no one to socialize with. And it's a part of the human nature. If you have everything in the world but no one to share it with, then there's no point in having it all. You have a little, but you share with people, there's a point in having that, because you enjoy it when you socialize with people. The second thing that shows us the importance of socializing, anyone know the word we use in Arabic to refer to the human being? Al-insan, very good. Al-insan is the word we use in Arabic to refer to the human being. The beautiful thing about the Arabic language is that you can always root words back. So for example, the word al-insan has a root within the language, where that word was derived from. You don't have that idea in English. You know, in English, if you try to root back words, it wouldn't go anywhere. The reason is because the language doesn't have the richness that other languages have. For example, Persian, for example, Greek, for example, Arabic. These languages are historical and they're very deep in their origins, so you can always root words back within. If I said to you, for example, what's the root of the word hot dog? What would your response be? It's nothing to do with hot dogs, right? And if you think hot dogs has anything to do with the dog, you're fooled because it doesn't root back in the language. Similarly, if I say to you, what's an idiomatic translation? What would you say to that? Anyone that thinks idiomatic has anything to do with an idiot, you're an idiot yourself. It has nothing to do with idiots, trust me, okay? Go check the dictionary for yourself. It's a rough translation of a paragraph, you call it an idiomatic translation. However, in Arabic, it doesn't work like that, okay? Words are rooted back within the language. Now, the scholars of language, they discuss the word al-insan, which refers to the human being, and they have this discussion about where is this word derived from in the Arabic language. So there are two common opinions. The first opinion is that the word insan is derived from another Arabic word which is an-nisyan. Anyone know what the word nisyan means? To forget. What does it mean? To forget. Why are human beings why are they derived from the word nisyan? Why are human beings referred to those who forget? Because Adam alayhi salam was in paradise. He was told not to eat from the particular tree. He ate from the tree, he forgot. So because he forgot, now those of his children are referred to those who forget. And it's from the nature of a human being that we forget, we make mistakes. The Prophet ﷺ said, رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّتِي الْخَطَأُ وَالنِّسْيَانِ. That forgetfulness and mistakes are forgiven from my nation. They are pardoned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgives us. Now the second possibility of where the word al-insan is rooted from is the Arabic word al-unsiyya. The first possibility was to be forgetful. The second possibility of where this word is rooted from is al-unsiyya. Al-unsiyya means to socialize. It's because it's in the human nature to socialize. And again, from the story of Adam alayhi salam, when he was in Jannah alone, he said to Allah, I need a companion. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him Hawa. So it's very natural for us as human beings to have the desire to want to call our friends, text our friends, go hang out with our friends, go play ball with your friends, get online and play Xbox Live with your friends. These things are natural and they're normal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. That indeed we created you from a male and female. One male, one female, mother and father. We put them together, your existence came in. Why? And we created you from different tribes. شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ, different tribes, different backgrounds. Why? لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you can come to know one another. You have one brother from Africa, one brother from India. They both meet and they talk. What kind of food do you have? What kind of food do we have? What do you guys do when someone gets sick? Then he asked the Indian guy, when someone gets sick, what do you guys do? And then he says, when you guys get married, what do you guys do? And then he asks him, when you guys get married, so they're sharing cultures and backgrounds, the different things they bring together, they contribute to one another, and that's a sort of socializing. It's so beautiful. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That when you do socialize, when you do meet other people, don't ever think you're better than anyone else. That's one thing, keep in your mind. When you meet your friends, you're at school, Sunday school, or in public school, when you meet anyone, never assume that you're better than anyone. The reason is because only that person is better who is more fearing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's more aware and conscious of Allah. And do you know whether you're more fearing of Allah or the person in front of you? Can you ever determine that? Yes or no? You can't determine that because that spirituality is internal and there's no way to quantify that. I can't quantify whether you have more taqwa than you or me. We can't quantify these things. We can't measure them. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ, as Allah says in the Quran, that indeed Allah is the one who is aware of what's within the chest, what's within your heart. Allah knows that. There are many other verses of the Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He encourages the idea of socializing. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ is another verse of the Quran. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says in a very beautiful tradition, الْخَلْقُ عِيَالُ اللَّهِ فَأَحَبُّ الْخَلْقِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَنْ أَحْسَنَ إِلَىٰ عِيَالِهِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the creation of Allah, imagine them like a very large family. And out of all of Allah's creation, Allah loves that person most who does the best towards his family. The one who takes care of the family, the one who looks after the family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that person the most. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in one tradition, الْمُؤْمِنُ مَأْلَفٌ وَلَا خَيْرَ فِي مَنْ لَا يَأْلَفْ وَلَا يُؤْلَفْ. The human being is sociable. And there is no good in the person who doesn't socialize and people don't socialize with him. There's no good in that person. It's only natural for the human being to mix with people, to talk with people, to share ideas. However, when you do socialize, you have to realize that there are certain boundaries, certain guidelines that Islam has given us. And the reason why Islam has given us these guidelines when speaking to other people, when chilling or socializing, is because if there are no guidelines, then the purpose of socializing can be defeated. What's the purpose of socializing? Getting close to one another. What's the purpose of socializing? To get to know each other. The purpose of socializing is to share the thoughts in your mind with someone else, to share the emotions in your heart with someone else. The purpose of socializing is that you share thoughts with one another, you learn from one another, you gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys understand that? But if we don't have guidelines for socializing, then we may end up breaking the purposes themselves. So for example, the purpose of this laptop right here is to be used for reading, writing, or research, whatever it is. Now, let's say for example, I started using this as a cricket bat. Will that be wise of me or stupid of me? Quite dumb of me, right? I mean, that's quite foolish of me to use this. So you have to use things for what they were created, what they were made for. You know, and that's what wisdom is for. Wisdom is the scholars, they define wisdom. They say, what is wisdom? وَضْعُ شَيْءٍ فِي مَحَلِّهِ. Wisdom is to place things in their correct place, to use things for the right thing at the right time. So socializing is something, I want you to think of it like a two-edged sword. If you know how to weave it, it's the most useful thing that you can have because the blade is on both sides. But if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know how to weave that sword, it's something that possibly may benefit you or it may end up hurting you as well. That's the danger or the benefit of socializing. It's a very fine line, something that you have to understand. The reasoning for these guidelines is to make sure we use these things in the right way. Now, from the Prophet ﷺ's life and from the lives of the companions, what we learn is that they were people who were very social. But their socializing had limitations because they had a goal behind their socializing. Their socializing was there for them to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moment they realized that this relationship was no longer beneficial, it wasn't taking them close to Allah, it was taking them away from Allah, they walked away from that right away. You guys understand that? I'll give you an example. I mentioned this last night in the lecture, but I'll share it with you guys again because it seems like most of you guys were not at that particular lecture. There's a very great scholar from Iraq area, the greater Iraq area. His name was Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi. Any of you guys ever heard of that name before? Ghazali? It sounds very cool. Yes, some of you guys heard that name, right? You'll hear of his name as you go along and study. He was a great philosopher and righteous scholar of the internal sciences of the human being, master of spirituality. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, he discusses this idea of socializing and the people you take as your friends and who they are, what they are, and how they impact your life. He gives this beautiful analogy, a beautiful example, and I'm going to share that example with you. Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says, imagine your life like a business. You guys follow me? Your life is like a business. Any man who has a business, he wants his business to be successful. Yes or no? Not only successful, he wants it to thrive. Billions of dollars of turnover, inshallah. That's what he wants. So if you have that high ambition that I want to achieve so much with my business, in order for you to achieve your goals, you have to go all out. You have to try and try and try and try. But what will end up happening is that at some point you're going to realize that you can't do it yourself, you need more help. In order for your business to yield a profit of millions of dollars, you can never do it alone. You need more help. Would you guys agree with that? Yes? Okay. Now, when this businessman needs help, he has to go around hiring people. Does he hire everyone he meets on the street, any person? Yes or no? In order to be hired, you have to go through a process called the interviewing process, the hiring process, right? So what they'll do is that they'll take your application, view your resume, and depending on how prestigious the company is, how ambitious the company is, that's how rigorous their hiring process is. For example, you want to get a job at Microsoft, you have to go through at least 7 interviews before you're hired. How many interviews? 7 interviews. You want to get a job at McDonald's, there's probably not even a hiring process. If there is one, you just fill out a form and you're up the next day. Because the visions are very different, the quality control is very different, they're 2 different things altogether. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says, your life is your business. You want your life to be successful. But the only way your life can be successful is if you control who your employees are, who the people are who help you in your life, your friends. You can't let every person that walks past you enter into your business. You keep them at a distance. And the people that are going to join you in your business, you have to interview them, you have to walk them through a screening process and very carefully select who is it that you're going to socialize with. Because if you socialize with the right people, it'll be the best decision you've made in your life. You socialize with the wrong people, it'll be the worst decision you've made in your life. Because the people around you, either they make you or they break you. Very good. The Prophet ﷺ said in a very beautiful tradition, الْمَرْءُ عَلَى دِينِ خَلِيلِهِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ مَنْ يُخَالِلُ. The Prophet ﷺ said, a person is on the faith of his friend. What your friends do is what you'll do. If your friends wear thobes, you'll wear thobes. If your friends wear hijab, you'll wear hijab. If your friends play basketball, you'll start playing basketball. If your friends use Facebook, you'll make a Facebook account even though you don't understand what the big hype's about. Whatever your friends do, you'll end up doing it because that's just the way people are. Monkey see, monkey do. People follow each other's trends. Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi, a person is on the religion of his friends. فَلْيَنْظُرْ مَنْ يُخَالِلُ, so be very careful who you choose as your friends, who you socialize with. You know, you're playing basketball outside on the court. And it's a Dhuhr Salah time. It's a Saturday, you're playing basketball, it's Dhuhr. What do? Well, it depends. It depends who you're playing ball with. If you're playing ball with a group of people who are not Muslim, the chances of stopping are not so high. You probably won't stop. You probably just keep playing. Miss Dhuhr Salah, come home, mom says, did you pray? You said, I pray. You lied to her. Now you're praying with a bunch of Muslim brothers, maybe from your Sunday school, Saturday school, and it's Dhuhr time, what happens? What are the chances of you skipping Salah? Hardly. You're not going to miss it. You're going to come and pray because the environment's there. Everyone's praying, I'll pray. No one's praying, I won't pray. That's the effect of your environment on you. So the people that you choose to socialize with, they are very important. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, he continues on his discussion, and that's not our topic for today. Maybe another day we can talk about it. He talks about 5 characteristics you must search for within a friend. If they do not possess those 5 characteristics, don't befriend them. But that's another topic for another day, another gathering, inshallah. We're talking about social media, so let's come back to this. So the people who you choose to socialize with, they're very important. Because these people can inspire you to become something, or they can steal away from you everything you already possess. They can pull you down the alleys of dirt and filth and make you an addict of those things that you can't even imagine you would go close to. You know, things that you can never imagine you'd ever want to even be in, you'd end up doing those things. Now when we do socialize, so the first thing you need to be careful of, being very careful who you socialize with. Who are the people you're socializing with? That's the first thing, and I talked about that. The second thing, when it comes to socializing, what are the etiquettes? What are the parameters? So in order to understand these etiquette and parameters, you have to understand the purpose behind socializing, which I highlighted earlier, but I'll just say it again. The purpose behind socializing is to make yourself a better person. Like from the business analogy, to make your business profitable. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ, it was known regarding them that during the days they would socialize with the people, and during the night they would socialize with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During the day they were with the people, you know, talking, laughing, joking. And during the night when everyone was not asleep, they would then socialize with Allah, meaning they would open their musalla out, lift their hands, cry, and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would read the Quran during the night. You know, they would do ruku during the night, do sajda during the night. So when you're socializing, never forget that you're not only supposed to socialize with the creation, there's also supposed to be a factor of you socializing with your creator, your master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you socialize? How do you interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's through reading the Quran, praying salah, and making dua. 3 things. What were the 3 things I said? Making dua was one of them. Reading Quran was another one. The other one was? Praying salah. These are 3 things that give you an opportunity to interact with your master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can't interact with the creator and can only interact with the creation, there's a problem there. We have a model of socializing that's flawed. Our mindset is wrong. We need to be equal with socializing with Allah and also with the creation. Okay, I'll give you an example. Now, most of us here probably don't even take up time every day to make dua. Would you guys agree with that? Right? Probably yes. And those of us who do make dua, how long does a dua usually last for? 30 seconds. MashaAllah, you're a very pious person. Right? You're the wali of our time. Most people, their duas don't last for more than 5 to 10 seconds. It's one of these. Yeah, like, that's what happens. You rub your beard 2 or 3 times, make sure your eyes are clean. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, I'm done. There's no aspect of dua in there. And if I was to tell someone that, you know what, I'm going to step down for a little bit and I want to, anyone here, I'll give you the mic and I want you to make dua for the next, half an hour. You'd probably start off with saying, all praise is due to Allah, the first and the last. All praise is due to Allah, the merciful. All praise is due to, I don't know. That's what would happen. Like, we'd be lost for words. We wouldn't know what to say. Because we're not used to this. It's kind of like going to a party. You know when you go to a party and you don't know anyone there? It's awkward, right? You're looking around at the wall, all of a sudden your watch is so much more interesting. You're now going through your text messages and deleting the old ones there. You're doing things that you would never do because you're so awkward and out of place, because that isn't your comfort zone. Now, we're so used to socializing with people that at the cost of socializing with people, we've lost the opportunity to socialize with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the way you and I would feel uncomfortable if we went to a party that we didn't know anyone at, that's how we feel now when we come to the masjid and it comes time for us to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're uncomfortable. When the dua is being made, everyone's looking at the clock. It's just going to make dua for 45 seconds now. All of a sudden we're looking at our clock again and we're thinking, oh man, what am I going to do after this? I got to go home, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to watch this TV show, I wonder who won the game. And we're thinking, because we're waiting to get out of there, everyone's just trying to get out. So when you're socializing, always remember to create that balance. The balance is that not only with Allah, with the creation, not only with the creation, but also give time to socialize with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now when it comes to socializing amongst people, now this is where the juicy part comes in. What are the parameters, what are guidelines that Islam gives us on what does Islam guide us on? How does Islam guide us when it comes to socializing with social media? So there are a few points that I wanted to bring out right now, and hopefully these will help us understand this to a degree. There are certain guidelines in regards to when socializing, first thing, what to say, what not to say. You guys understand that thing? What's the first thing? What to say, what not to say. The second thing, when to say, when not to say. You guys following me here? The third thing, who to speak to, who not to speak to. I'm going to address this from three issues, three perspectives. What was the first one? What to say and what not to say. Okay? So when we socialize, some of us think that you can socialize as much as you want, say everything, but that's not true. You're not supposed to say everything. There are certain things that are not supposed to be that you're not supposed to share with people. For example, there are certain private matters in your life that you shouldn't be sharing with other people. For example, there may be something that you've done that's a sin, something bad that you did. You shouldn't be telling people about this. Nowadays, when you go on Facebook, when you go on Twitter, or you go on any of these social media platforms that we have today, most of these posts that people are posting up, they're confessing of their sins to people. They're standing there with a girl and they're not married, neither are they related, and they're taking a picture together. So not only are you sinning by being with that girl or being with that boy, you're capturing the sin, and then you're exposing yourself to the whole world. You guys follow what I'm saying here? So you're exposing your sins. Now there's a song that's very inappropriate, it's straight out haram. Now you like the song, you listen to it, that's one problem. Okay? Still we can tolerate that. That's something between you and Allah. Just leave it there. But then now you post that link up on YouTube or on Facebook and you're telling everyone, my favorite song. Make sure you listen to it. Or you tell your friends, I just learned the lyrics to this song off by heart right now. So you're confessing to your sins. This is a very big issue where you should know what to share and what not to share with people. How much to tell people, how much not to tell people. And then there's another aspect of, in terms of what to say, what not to say, where people they lose their personal life. They share so much information on social media without realizing who is on the other side and watching and monitoring what we're saying. And at the cost of that, you end up losing your privacy. A few years back, I remember it became a common trend that robbers were robbing people's houses by viewing social media. You guys remember that? Right? It was a common thing. What they would do is that they would be monitoring social media, and if someone checks in at the cinema, they know they're gone for 2 hours. If you check in and say, I'm an Iron Man, or I'm going to watch this movie or that movie, they know the guy's gone for 2 hours, so they come to their house and have chai there, relax, have biryani, get a little nap in, rob the place, and then and walk out at the end because they know they have 2 hours with their hands. The guy's gone for a movie, he's not come back anymore. Gone to California for 5 days. Wish me good luck. 5 days, we're going to hold the biggest thing out here. The whole party we can have here because the guy's gone for 5 days, man. They have a whole party there. So knowing how much to share, how much not to share with people, and how that can harm you as well, that's another thing. Knowing your limits. There's account hacking that happens there, and people are stalking each other. People just share addresses online. You won't believe this. As an imam, I'm telling you. The other day, I was going through I usually when I check my social media, there's like a little icon there that says notifications. I never click on it. It always says 99. So I thought to myself, I wonder what it says there. So one day I just clicked on it. And I clicked on it and it said there, someone liked your post. So I said, oh, interesting. Let me see which post it liked. Maybe that was something that I can maybe share more in the future of. So I clicked on that post, and this brother who liked that post, he liked a post of mine that I posted up 6 years ago. How many years ago? 6. I'm thinking, this guy went through 6 years of my post to find that post. I don't even know how he did that. Like, how would a person sit down? And there's this whole idea. Alhamdulillah, at least the content of most of my postings on social media are somewhat related to religion or something inspirational, something to motivate people, or motivate myself, or an experience that I had, or something so it's something beneficial. But people are sitting there and they're just stalking and stalking and stalking. People are posting up pictures of themselves that are not even appropriate, and there are guys and girls, and may Allah protect, that are just looking at these things without any control and forgetting that Allah is watching, and they're stalking each other. So you must always remember that when you're on social media, be careful of what you share. There's no need for you to tell everyone what your real date of birth is, or even share that information, or share your address, or share your phone number, share your email address. These things are absolutely unnecessary, because the more you share, the more you're exposing yourself to possible harm. Now, when we talk about this idea of what to share and what not to share, the one thing that I think is very important is to always remember to never expose your sins. This is a very big thing. The teaching, the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us that a person who sins and conceals his sin, when he comes to Allah on the Day of Judgment, it is very possible Allah will forgive him for that sin. But however, if he tells people of the sin, then Allah will say to him that I was going to forgive you for it, but you told everyone, so now we have to hold you accountable for it. You guys understand that? That's why from the 99 names of Allah, one of the names of Allah is As-Sattar. What is it? As-Sattar. Anyone know what that means? The one who hides, the one who conceals. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't expose us to people when we commit sin. It's something that's a secret between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's where it is, that's where it ends right there. Now when we talk about when to socialize and when not to socialize, one of the things that's very important in this regard is to know that everything is good as long as it's done in moderation. If you want to socialize with people, there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure you do it in moderation. It shouldn't be something that's an obsession and just an addiction. I think there was a research that I was reading the other day that the average American checks their social media 12 times per hour. How many times? And I think that's an understatement, to be honest with you, because I know people, every time they reach into their pocket, they check their Facebook. Every time they reach into their pocket, they're checking their WhatsApp. Every time they reach into their pocket, they're checking their Twitter, because there's this obsession of thinking what I said, what did so-and-so person think of what I said, and what's their response, what's my response to that. You post up a post, the first thing you're thinking are, how many likes is this post going to have? You upload a video on YouTube, you're thinking, how many views is the video going to have? You post something on Twitter, how many retweets is it going to have? I post something on WhatsApp, is this going to spark some kind of conversation or not? So we're always thinking that, what are people thinking? What are people thinking? What are people thinking? And this creates an obsession within people. There was a couple that came to me, husband and wife, they were married, and the husband and wife, they were having some communication issues. So I said to them, walk me through your day. What do you guys do 24 hours a day? Walk me through step by step. So what they started with was so funny. The brother says to me, Sheikh, we wake up in the morning, my wife and I lie in the same bed for 45 minutes and we don't talk to each other. You understand that? Yeah. They lie in the same bed every morning, 45 minutes. I said, how is that possible? He said, I check my phone for 45 minutes, she checks her phone for 45 minutes. We go through the text messages, the emails, the WhatsApp, the Facebook, and now everyone's laughing because they know that you're a target of this too. Okay? Before you get out of your bed, half an hour, 45 minutes are dedicated there. And before husband and wife are lying in the same bed, they haven't even said good morning to each other yet. And they're already, posting up selfies or whatever it is of themselves at that hour. So there's this obsession with being updated with what's happening in the world and informing people of what you're doing. What people think of me and what I think of other people. And this, what it does ultimately, is it takes away from you an aspect of sincerity. And this is the reality. Listen to this very carefully. It takes away from the aspect of sincerity. We all know that social media can be used for good as well. You can post a hadith up there, post a Quran up there, post a lecture up there. People can like it, they can love it, they can follow, they can start crying, they can build a connection with Allah. But a lot of us, when we post things on social media, rather than focusing on who benefited and who didn't benefit, we're looking at how many likes we got. And this idea of looking at likes, looking at retweets, looking at views, it takes away sincerity. It takes away sincerity, because in Islam, we're not about numbers. Where the gathering can be small, but there are people in this gathering who could be sincere. And if there's even one person who comes out of the gathering who's sincere, then that in itself is enough for us. That's guidance for us. What more could we want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There was one lady who I met in London. I was in London and I met a lady there. And I was talking to her. She was an old lady. So she said to me, Sheikh, how many lectures have you given in your life? I said, honestly speaking, I don't know. She said, how many people have you spoken to? I said, well, how many people have attended my lectures throughout my life? I don't know how many lectures I've given. I have no idea how many people attended. Then she said to me, how many people have accepted Islam in their hands? I said, well, there's a lot. I've lost count. So then she said to me, she was an old lady. She said to me, well, even though you don't know how many times you've lectured, how many people have attended your lectures, and how many people have accepted Islam in your hands, I know I'm going to be in Jannah before you. What did she say? I know that I'm going to be in Jannah before you. I was like, wow, man, that's some confidence there, mashallah, right? I'm not saying you're not, but that's just, mashallah, you got a lot of confidence. I said, honey, what's that for? She said, well, you may have thousands. I'm not a big scholar or anything. I didn't have the chance to reach out to thousands of people. But in my life, I reached out to 4 people. How many? 4. There are 4 people I reached out to in my life. You may have thousands, but I have 4. But I know the 4 that I made, they're special. And that's, what are you talking about? So this lady is telling me that I couldn't have children. She couldn't have children. She's an old lady. She said, when I was young, I got married, I realized I couldn't have children. So my husband and I adopted a girl. And we took care of this girl until we gave her education, everything, we got her married. We got her married, we adopted a second girl. Got her married. Adopted a third girl. Got her married. And she said, and she's an old lady, she's like, we just adopted our 4th girl right now. And I have, my entire life, all I did was I adopted a girl, took care of her, got her married. Second girl, got her. She said, the third girl, I wanted to make sure she's the seal, the deal, Jannah for me, so we adopted a girl who was handicapped. And that girl, I promised that she's going to push me into Jannah like I push her in and out of the house every single day. So it's not about numbers, it's not about volume. Now, I'm looking at this lady and I know in my heart she's going to Jannah before me. I can testify to that as well now. I mean, a lady, it's not about 400,000 people or 4 people, but it's about the quality you pull out of people. So the sincerity at some point is lost, where people forget. On social media, people, they create a dual personality. They're so confident in front of people when they go on social media, they lose that confidence. They're lacking in confidence in front of people. When they go behind the keyboard, now they have that confidence. You know, a dual personality. In front of people, they're so respectful. Behind the keyboard, they're so disrespectful. Have you guys ever seen that before? You meet someone, they're so nice and polite, that as soon as you see their post, you're like, oh my God, is that the same person? Then you text them, did your account just get hacked or something? Like, no, I didn't get hacked. And then you realize that this is who they are. So people lose their sense a lot of times. They become disrespectful when they go onto social media. This is also a big concern. Now, one of the biggest things that I like to point out when it comes to this idea of social media is that when we engage on a social platform where there are no walls and you can meet anyone in the world and anywhere, we lose the concept of understanding what real friendship means. Friendship has a meaning, and that's actually a very deep meaning. You know, a friend is a person who you dedicate yourself to, you devote yourself to, they dedicate themselves to you, they devote themselves to you. On social media, we have a false sense of friendship, where all you have to do is click and you're a friend, click, you're a friend, click, you're a friend. You know, there was a research that I read before that the average person, actually it was the average or more, it was above average. The more social people in society at one time cannot have more than 150 friends. How many is that? A person cannot have more than 150 friends at one time. More than that is too much. You can't. Your body can't handle it. How many of you on Facebook have more than 150 friends? Right? If you're on Facebook, you probably have more than 150 friends. If you don't, sorry. I had to do that, right? I think everybody has more than 150 friends, right? At some point or the other, right? And maybe you're new to it or something. Believe me, within no time you'll have hundreds of friends. And it's something to be proud of, but I'm just saying. And you lose the concept of friendship. You don't know who your friends are, who your friends aren't. Okay? And it becomes this whole superficial relationship that you have with people in which you're not even sure who is a friend and who is a foe. Now, as a part of the discussion, who to socialize with, who to not socialize with, the main thing that relates to the group that I'm sitting with right now is the aspect of interacting with people from the opposite gender on social media. Would you guys agree that's a big issue? Yes or no?
Yes.
Like, boys and girls interacting on social media. Is it permissible or not? Now people ask this question, Mufti Sahab, can I have girls on my friends list? Right? Yes or no, is that permissible or not? That's a tricky question. And there's no black and white answer to it, to be honest with you. It's something you have to understand. Can I have guys on my friend list? Yes or no? So, let's take one step at a time again. Is it permissible to socialize with the opposite gender? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, it is. Like we talked about, socializing is permissible. Is it permissible to interact with someone from the opposite gender? It is. But again, like I said earlier, with guidelines. There are guidelines. And the reason why there are guidelines is because the purpose behind socializing is to gain closest to Allah and to benefit yourself. And if there are no guidelines, the people from the opposite gender socializing, they'll end up harming each other rather than benefiting each other. There will be spiritual harm rather than spiritual benefit. So, is there anything wrong with people from the opposite gender socializing? No, there's nothing wrong with that, but there are guidelines. And what kind of guidelines? One of my good friends, he made up a little acronym. He said, in order to know that your guidelines when socializing with someone from the opposite gender, he calls it the PPL rule. You guys ever heard of that before? PPL. Right? What does PPL stand for? Public, purposeful, and limited. You need to interact with someone from the opposite gender. The first thing we need to make sure is that it's public. You are not supposed to interact with someone from the opposite gender alone. This whole room is empty for whatever reason, and there's only one brother, one sister here. What should happen? One of them should walk out. It doesn't matter how important it is. If you're not directly related, right, then you need to walk out of it. Because the Prophet ﷺ tells us when a man and lady are alone, who's the third person there? Shaitan is there. You guys remember? Very good. The Prophet ﷺ said, when a man and lady are alone, the third person there is Shaitan. And he stirs evil thoughts between them, which can lead somewhere. May Allah protect us all. So the first thing, never ever in privacy, always be open about it. The second thing, purposeful. When you're interacting with someone from the opposite gender, you have to have a purpose behind it. What's the purpose of me interacting with this person? Maybe you're in the same class, maybe you go to the same school, maybe you're in the same degree. Maybe you're going after, you can have a million things on your mind that you might have in common. Like maybe this youth program, there was a brother and sister that had to coordinate to make this happen. So your discussion is purposeful. There's nothing wrong with that. Public, purposeful. If it's not purposeful, then just randomly going around and just socializing has no benefit in itself. And the last thing, limited. Once your purpose is complete, then the conversation should end there. You should go back to your own genders and continue socializing there. In today's world, what happens is that a girl posts up a picture of herself, and where do the most of the likes come from? Guys, mashallah. Right? And a guy posts up a selfie, where do the most likes come from? Girls, right? And the first thing they write is, oh, you're so cute, mashallah. Right? I've seen that so much, honestly. Right? This is bad. This is wrong. It's inappropriate. It's something that our Prophet ﷺ prohibited us from. So be mindful of your privacy. Be mindful of not being overly addicted when it comes to socializing. Be mindful of segregation between the genders in socializing. If you can master these 3 or 4 things, maintaining your sincerity, doing it only and only for the sake of Allah, then trust me, there's so much good that can also come out of this. It's not always negative. There's so much good that can come out of this. Being involved in social media myself, I can tell you,